I want to really apologize to you because when I was about 20, our government started talking about climate change. And it wasn't a political thing at that point, it was just science. And somehow this got completely corrupted into a political issue. If you're interested in listening to a podcast that explains how that happens, email me and I'll send it to you. It's kind of interesting. But I really want to apologize to you because this is a grave injustice that my generation has not done really anything to fix this. So I think Chris already explained Citizens Climate Lobby, so I'll pass that one. So one of the things that's really important is that when we think about climate change, it's really important that we not be just in our heads and that we connect our heart to the natural world. So when you think about climate change, what emotions come up? Just shout them out.
Anxiety.
Irritation.
Anger.
Anger, got that one. Anxiety, got that one too.
Despair.
Frustration.
Despair. Frustration.
Panic.
Panic, got that one too.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Impatience.
Yeah. So, so there's a whole multitude of emotions. I do occasionally get students who say hopeful. I don't get many older people saying that. So this is what we're going to talk about. It's really important that you talk about climate change, which is why I asked you how many of us are having at least weekly conversations about climate change. I'm going to do a quick demonstration of EnRoads, and then we're going to talk about actions. Because if you guys are just sitting on your sofas talking about it and you're not actually acting, that's not enough. I mean, talking about it is great, but you also need to act. And I'm going to give you some suggestions for easy actions that all of us can do. So this slide I have in here, because you probably recognize it, I need you to understand that the molecule carbon dioxide is extremely stable, and it's not going anywhere. When we release it into the atmosphere, it's up there for thousands of years. It's not like methane that degrades after about 20 years into oxygen and water vapor. So it's up there pretty much for good until it's turned into, taken up by plants and turned, or whatever. Okay, so when you talk about climate change, outside of your climate people, it's really important that you do not talk about net zero or greenhouse gas emissions. This does not resonate with anybody. The words that people understand and that resonates with them, they've done studies, these are the words. It's dirty energy and heat trapping pollution. So in grade, just stamp those words those phrases into your mind, dirty energy and heat trapping pollution, because these are the words that people understand and that resonate with them. So we're going to move on to EnRoads, and so this is just a little summary of what EnRoads is. And normally, like I said, I was hoping we could play this game where you guys would compete and see if you could come up with 3 solutions to keep the world warming below 2.1 degrees. But we can't do that, so I'm going to just demonstrate EnRoads to you. And again, this is free. Please look at it on your own when you do have access to Wi-Fi. So what you can see on the upper left is a stack graph of the different sources of energy, and on the upper right, you see the average global temperature increase compared to when we started burning dirty energy back around 1850. And you can see that we're headed for a 3.3 degrees increase centigrade. And then on the bottom, you can see 19 major solutions to climate change. I want to point out that nowhere up there is recycling. Okay? So a lot of us believe that if we're driving an EV and recycling and voting, we've done our part. And that is not the case. Recycling's great. Please do it. I do it, everybody. I'm like the enforcer. But it's not going to solve climate change. And so what I want you to do is to shout out your favorite solutions, and I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. Come on. What is it?
Nuclear.
Nuclear. Okay. So let's see what nuclear would do. So one of the things that is really, this was actually the shocking thing for me, is do you see what happens when you provide tax incentives for nuclear? Do you see what's happening? Let me do it again. It's actually squeezing out renewable energy. So I'm a big believer in small nuclear, but it's not the great answer that I would like it to be. Anyone else?
Carbon price.
Carbon price, okay.
Shit.
Okay, so spoiler alert, this is by far the single most effective solution. And one of the reasons it is so darned effective is, do you see the shape of that blue line? Do you see how quickly it drops down? When you look at the other solutions, you'll see it dip a little bit, or maybe it doesn't dip at all, it just kind of levels out. And we're out of time. And like I said, that carbon dioxide that we're putting up into the atmosphere is there for thousands of years. So we need solutions that are going to take effect really fast. And that's what a carbon price does. By the way, a carbon price does not mean it has to shock the economy. The price starts out low, increases incrementally every year in a predictable way. So it doesn't have to be super bad for the economy. Does anyone have any thoughts about why this is so effective?
Is there a cost that you apply to the?
Say it again.
Is there a cost before your emission you have to pay for the carbon that you emission or not?
Right, and you have to pay, and
Right,
so
right.
money changes your
So it
buying
has to
behavior
go
faster
forward.
than anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then,
Say what she said.
oh, she,
There's another
It's
mic
the
there.
cost.
it's the cost.
Yeah, it's the cost you pay for the emissions. That's the reason they invest more in renewable energy.
Right, and so you might use less energy, and like you said, you might switch to renewable. The other thing is that it jumpstarts some of the solutions up here. I mean, it doesn't make trees grow faster, but it certainly might increase electrification of transportation and electrification of buildings and industry, right? Okay, who's got another solution?
Energy efficient?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Energy efficient.
Energy efficiency
Yes.
of transportation or?
Yeah, transportation also.
Okay, so let's see what this will do. So you see how flat the blue line is? Now why is that? If you bought a car last year, how long does that car last?
20 years?
20 years, there you go. Are you gonna run out and just get a new car? Probably not, because it's expensive. So that's called capital turnover, and it takes time. So energy efficiency of buildings and industry does more. But again, you know, this is for new buildings. This is when old appliances wear out. Most people, unless you're the people in this room, are probably not going to replace your gas furnaces and gas water heaters until they burn out. And by the way, all of you know about heat pumps, right?
Woo!
Okay, I replaced my working gas furnace and water heater with a heat pump about 1.5 years ago. I bumped up the thermostat from 65 to 74 because I like being warm. I don't know why I work on climate change, but what the heck. Anyway, I like being warm. And the bill went down 70%, 70%. So this is real. It is incredibly energy efficient. And please make the switch and make provisions for the switch before your appliances wear out. So electrification does a little bit, but actually energy efficiency does a lot more because you're going to use less energy, whether it's coming from any source. So if the electricity running your electric appliances is coming from burning gas or oil, then you know, it's not going to be quite as green. And so energy efficiency tends to be more effective. Anyone else? What is it? Renewables, okay. Amazing, huh? Okay. Shocking. What else?
Nature-based?
What is it? Nature-based. Okay. So nature-based, what is this? Does anyone know?
No.
Planting trees, biochar. You guys know what biochar is? Biochar means you take organic material, plant material, and you burn it under very high heat, under almost anaerobic conditions, and it turns into this magical stuff called biochar, which provides a lattice for that you can put in the soil to hold moisture and to help the roots grow into it and fertilize the soil, make the soil richer. Let's see, and so this is planting lots of trees about the size, twice the size of the continent of India. So a lot of trees. Yes.
I'm curious, can we go back to the renewables? I'm curious about. Hello. I'm curious about going back to the renewables. It had so little effect. I'm curious if we can dive into that a little.
Sam, take it away.
So if you just pull the renewables lever without taxing carbon or disincentivizing other forms of energy, what you end up doing is you make energy cheaper and we end up consuming more of it. There's like a rebound effect. And you don't crowd out the blue wedge, the red wedge, and the brown wedge at the bottom, coal, oil, gas, remain about the same, so you don't end up crowding out too much energy that way.
Thank you. Yes.
It's wonderful to have you here, Sam.
I have a question regarding renewables on the platform. Does it have a
Wait, if you have a question, just raise your hand. I'm going to try to make sure everybody can hear stuff.
So the other thing is that I've got a lot of material to cover. This is actually a small part of the presentation, so.
Really quick. I just wanted to know, is there a breakdown of different renewables on the platform? Like, can you specify solar or wind? Or like, what happens if we can't do more wind, but we can do more solar?
Sam is shaking his head no. But I do want you to know that there are these three little dots here. And so you can, there's a lot of variables that you can adjust in the website. Okay, so.
We had one more and then I'm going to cut it off. But she already put up her hand.
Hi, I have an observation/question. So you mentioned about plantations in India, the Indian subcontinent. I'd like to know more about that. And also I wanted to add, when you said capital turnover, the time a car lasts, so the current government in India is making its citizens give up their car which uses diesel every 10 years to positively affect the automobile industry, and a petrol car every 15 years. So it's really bad for the environment.
Yeah. So I didn't mean that we would only plant trees in India. I was trying to give people an idea of the land mass involved with planting the several trillion trees. That was all. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that question. And so how many of you are interested in technological carbon removal? Okay, so let me just show you what this does. I have a QR code that I will share with you later in the presentation. Sam's getting up. Did you want to say something? I have a QR code that I'll share with you later in the presentation that talks about why this is not more effective. But just notice the flat line and that it brought down the average global temperature 0.1 degrees. And then agricultural emissions. Do you guys know what this is?
Yeah.
Come on, talk.
Cow farts.
Cow parts, thank you. It also has to do with fertilizers. And I forgot to say, like, part of the nature-based carbon dioxide removal is, what do you call it, regenerative farming. And then, let's see, and waste and leakage. So this pertains mostly somewhat to F-gases, but mostly to methane. And you know that methane is about 80 times more potent greenhouse gas compared to carbon dioxide, but it only lasts about 20 years. And what are the three major sources of methane? Agriculture is one. Cows. What is it? I can't hear you.
Rice cultivation.
That's not one of the biggest though, the big three.
Landfills?
What is it?
Landfills?
Yes, so why does California mandate green bins? It's because if you put food and yard waste into anaerobic conditions to what do you call it? I'm sorry, I'm really old. To decompose. My brain's not working. So to decompose, it releases methane. And there was a guy who lit up a cigarette in the park in San Mateo that was built on an old landfill, and there was a methane explosion all around him. So you can't smell this stuff, you can't see it, but it is constantly leaking out of old landfills. And you must compost with oxygen by turning it, food and yard waste. It's a really big contributor. And then what's the third one?
Pipeline leaks?
Yes, so oil, gas, and coal,
Oh, yeah.
as they extract this material from the ground, as they transport it and as they refine it, it is leaking methane, and very large amounts. And by the way, there was a provision in the Inflation Reduction Act to fine these companies for doing this, and Congress just reversed that decision back in February, early March or something. Terrible, terrible decision, but. Okay, while I'm on that subject, I hope all of you know that the reason we have a drill baby drill president is because a little over a third of the people in the United States voted for him, a little under a third voted for Kamala, and 1/3 did not vote.
Oh, wow.
Right? You guys know this, right? All right, I'm going to diverge a little bit and talk about stuff, more like stuff. And do you guys know that the biggest political donor in California is oil and gas? Right? So when you think, oh, I live in this big, beautiful blue bubble, and my legislator knows what to do, think again. My assembly member took money from Chevron and PG&E, refused to return it, and she does their bidding. And so one of the things you can do, because no one is going to get elected in California who says they don't believe in climate change, unless they're in the federal government, and then they can get away with it. But anyway, there are a few. So in California, if you're running for office at the state level, you will not come out and admit you don't believe in climate change. But the little secret is that you can find it on their website. So you look at their website, and if all they're talking about is adaptation, cooling centers, sea level rise, water availability, and they're not talking at all about shutting off the faucet, you better believe that legislator is taking money from oil and gas and doing their bidding. So look at their websites very carefully and critically for that information. Okay, where were we? I can't remember. Deforestation. Okay, what's the biggest driver for deforestation?
Palm oil.
It's not palm oil,
Farming?
it's not toilet paper, it's not building supplies.
Agriculture.
It's what?
Agriculture.
It is getting rid of forests to make grazing land for cattle and to grow crops to feed to cattle. So the number one way you can help to stop deforestation is to change what you're eating. Okay, so now I want to show you something else. I'm gonna demonstrate some solutions where nothing needs to be invented. We already know how to do all of this stuff. We just need legislation. So I'm going to put a price on carbon. I'm going to make all of our new cars, buses, trucks, and trains all electric and energy efficient. I'm going to make sure that all the new buildings and the remodels and the broken appliances are very energy efficient and all electric. I'm going to make sure that we use nature-based carbon dioxide removal and that we are improving our agriculture and reducing our meat consumption. I'm going to make sure that we reduce our waste and leakage and that we stop deforestation. And now what we've got is basically a world where we are right now, a livable world. The Central Valley doesn't need to turn into a desert. We can still supply food to the world and the United States. We can still have a good quality life. We still have fires. We still have heat waves. We still have horrible hurricanes and flooding. But this is a livable world, and nothing needs to be invented. All we need to get this stuff done is to pass legislation. And that's what the rest of the talk is gonna be about, is what part can you play? Just do it. I'm gonna give you some easy ways to take action. What part can you play to make this happen? Now, I am hopeful that we will get down below this with technological carbon removal and nature-based carbon removal. And I can go into that, why I think that, but I'm hopeful that in 50 to 100 years, that will happen. No time soon, but I'm actually very hopeful that that will happen. So, okay, so we're gonna go back to the presentation. So, actually, before I do that, no, never mind. Okay, so I need you to see all of these things. The carbon pricing is by far the single most effective solution, by far. That we need all possible solutions, and that there is reason to have hope. And the reason the hope is so important is that if you think this is a hopeless situation, it's like, why bother? Just put your blinders on, enjoy your lives, and try to forget about it. And that will not work. It will not work. Because that's what everybody's been doing so far, and we haven't done very much. So I want you to turn to the person right next to you and talk about one or two of these questions. And you've got 2 minutes.
What are the top 3?
We talked a bit about like the viability of passing cap and trade. Because like it is the simplest solution in terms of theory, what we know can fix the problem, but in terms of like policy viability with the current climate, it's very hard here right now. So we talked about, okay, if the United States is out of play for the moment, what about the United Nations? What about the Security Council?
What about California?
Yeah, what about California, and what about like spite? Like if California gets it passed, but the federal government's like, oh, I hate you, California, it's illegal now.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about, okay, what about internationally? Could you get maybe China and India to sign a pact together? Could you get other places to sign things, even if we're not having any problems with the United States?
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
I would say sort of a basic thing is you know, how you, I mean, can you police sort of the whole composting movement? We have it here. Other cities around California. I've gotten some of my sister's starting to do it to the best of her ability where she lives in South Bay in LA. But it's certainly like you can't really police it. It's either you're interested in doing it or you're not. And you can get sort of shamed by your neighbors. I mean, I had a neighbor.
You know, except
Yeah.
where I live down in San Mateo, my garbage bill is based on how much I put in landfill.
Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
Very good point.
So we're gonna move on. Thank you all so much for humoring me and doing all of this. So what is carbon pricing? And carbon pricing means that you are putting, that it's not you and me who are paying this. It's not PG&E. It is Chevron. It is Chevron and the companies that are extracting these materials from the earth or importing them. They pay the fee. And they pay the fee to the US government. The US government already keeps track of how much is being extracted and imported, so it's not anything new. And then they will turn around, of course, and increase their prices when they sell it to PG&E, which may increase our prices, right? But they're the ones paying the fee. And like I said, it would start out low, barely noticeable, and then but increase every year in a predictable way. So why is it so effective? And we talked a little bit about this. It's because people decide how much to use and what to use based on price. And it's fast. You pass the bill, within 4 months it takes effect. And it stimulates innovation because companies know it's predictable. They know what's coming down the road, and they're going to put more money into research to switch out their energy source. And like I said, it jumpstarts not all, but some of the other solutions. So where do you think that money should go? The government collects it. Where do you think it should go?
Hands up.
Shout it out.
First hand.
To low-income households.
Okay, great.
To funding all the other solutions in that simulation that brought it
Special
down?
projects, great. Yeah. Okay,
Anyone else?
that's fine, because we're gonna run out of time. So, I think the money should come back to us. And it could come back preferentially to lower and middle income people, so maybe perhaps people making over 400,000 wouldn't get that monthly check, but everyone else would, right? And it would help to offset their increased costs. So if you were to do this, lower and middle income people would actually come out ahead. Super wealthy people would pay the lion's share, but they can afford it, and hey, no one's telling them how much energy to use or where to get their energy. They can change their ways. This is the bill that Citizens Climate Lobby most closely aligns with. It expired at the end of the last Congress. Do I think that a price on carbon is going to get through with the current administration? No, I do not, but I'm very patient. I've been supporting this bill, or a form of this bill, for the last, 8 years? Something like that. So, and we've gotten pretty close. So what this bill does is it takes all of the money and returns it equally to everybody. And there's also a border adjustment, a carbon border adjustment, which helps to encourage other countries to do the same thing. And incidentally, the EU has a price on carbon. They are set to start a carbon border adjustment mechanism in January of 2026. And you better believe that a lot of industries in the US are going to be hit hard if Congress doesn't improve their accounting system for how much energy, how much pollutants are released with our manufacturing here, because we're actually better than a lot of countries because of the Environmental Protection Agency regulations. So I want you to talk to the person right next to you. What do you like about this bill? What worries you? Go.
Have you guys spoken over here?
We need somebody
Would you
new.
like to speak?
Yeah. So we were discussing like what would it actually accomplish? Like let's say the money comes back to the people and they still have to buy energy. Is the hope that they would use that money to buy renewable energy? Or if it's not possible for them, if they buy fossil fuels again, would it like change anything?
You know what? It is up to them how people spend that money. If they choose to use it to go on a vacation, that's fine. It's up to them. But then the PG&E bill is going to arrive, and or they'll have to pay more to buy their pair of pants if they're still using fossil dirty energy to power the company. So those prices are going to go up. So it's up to them how they use it.
So the hope is like consumer behavior.
Let me tell you, when the price keeps going up and your gas furnace breaks, what do you think you're gonna buy? Right? Yeah, a heat pump.
And I want to add a really important thing. I think the most important part about this policy is that companies see it coming and they get ready to offer you products that aren't going to use so much energy.
Bingo. Yeah. Okay, so there is a carbon border adjustment. I don't really have much time to get into this, so I'm just going to say that there is a border adjustment, and you can look it up online if you want to look at this. So this is the QR code to see how you personally would come out during the first year of this bill, how much your costs would increase, and what that monthly check would be, during the first year of this bill. Yeah?
Keep it there.
Okay, so how do you put a price on carbon? How do you get any effective legislation? And the answer is by building political will. So I want to tell you a story about how close we got in the fall of 2022. So we had 50 Democrats in the Senate, and we had the budget reconciliation bill coming up where you just needed a straight 51% voting for it. And so Citizens Climate Lobby saw this as an opportunity to get a price on carbon, the rebate, and the border adjustment in the budget reconciliation bill. They reached out to all of their members, asked them to please contact their senators, and within 2 months there were 250,000 phone calls and emails to senators. And guess what happened? It appeared in the bill. That triad. magically. There was no other group advocating for that triad. Now, Joe Manchin was one of those 50 senators, and he makes his money by mining coal. And he knew he was going to get hit really hard with this bill, so he refused to vote for it. So there weren't enough votes, and it all had to be removed because of one senator. And this is an example of how important it is to vote for people who share your values and to not stay at home and not vote. Out of protest or whatever reason you have got to vote. That is your power. Okay, so that's how you do it. And this isn't from individuals taking action. I mean, it is individuals taking action, but it's joining a group that tells you when there is an opportunity to get legislation passed, and then you jump into action. And you don't contact them once, you do it over and over and over again. And you do anything else that you can to help get that legislation passed. So I've been to Washington since 2016. I go with Citizens Climate Lobby. They have a conference every June or July. 2 days, training you how to lobby, and then we all go to Capitol Hill and meet with legislators behind closed doors. And it's really incredible watching the progression. So it used to be that you would hear people say, oh, I don't believe in climate change. You don't hear that anymore. Everyone believes in climate change. It's not a religion. Everyone understands it. What they differ on is what to do about it. And when I first met with Jackie Spear back in 2016, she actually told me she was going to leave climate change to the millennials, and I started crying. That got her attention and got her to start backpedaling. But it is really shocking how little a lot of these legislators understand. It's better now, but they really need to hear from you. So how do you influence them? And you don't, when I call their offices, I interview the aide and also give her information. And I ask them, what do you do with my phone call or my form email or my email? And they all say the same thing. They have a computer program in front of them and they have a list of different issues. And they just check a box whether you're pro or con. So that 2 hour email that you spend pouring your heart into, that's going to count the same amount as a form email that I'm going to share with you that literally takes 30 seconds to send. That phone call, you can call and leave a 2-minute message saying very concisely what you want them to do. And that counts just as much as ranting and raving for 20 minutes with them. Yes.
We all have this program?
Yes. So you don't want to, I mean, there are some, I know of one representative from Utah who prioritizes individual emails rather than form emails. But for the most part, it's all the same. Now, I always change the title on the form email, and I change the first 2 sentences. But you don't have to. I mean, it takes me another 30 seconds to do that, right? And maybe you don't understand what I mean by a form email. So we're going to practice. You're going to use your phones, and I need you to experience how easy this is. So we're all going to do it together. You are a constituent. Hello?
Yes.
You are a constituent even if you cannot vote, Marcel. Hello? So if you, for any reason, you cannot vote, it is their job to listen to you. And you can use these form emails that CCL has created, and they are just as important to that legislator as a voter. So take out your phones. We're all going to do this together. Now, this form email is for a price on carbon, which, yes, I know it's not going to pass this year, but I need, because this is the legislation we've been talking about, this is the one I'm going to ask you to do because you understand it. That has tools to make action easy. And I do want to mention that this is different from a petition. A petition is a long list of people who support it. And honestly, I think a lot of petitions are a ploy to get you to donate. Because if you notice, once you fill out the petition, then the next page is, will you donate, right? This is an email directly from you to the legislator. It's a direct contact. Very different from a petition. So far, far more effective. So just remember that. Okay. I think we're going to have to skip this one because I'm running late. So I send out a weekly email on Sunday mornings with a link to an action that is as easy as this, but it is for legislation that is happening now. So, like I said, the price on carbon, not going to happen within the next year. But the stuff I send out on Sunday mornings has a good chance of passing. And I do want you to know that 70% of the bills that CCL supports have passed because we know how to get legislators on board. We talk with Democrats and Republicans and independents. We talk with whomever is in power now, whomever is elected. And we also got 3 bills passed during Trump's first administration. So it's not hopeless even now, but we need to organize and take action. You can't just sit on your hands and think, this is hopeless now, because it's not. It is hopeless if you don't act. So this is a California bill that I think is fantastic. It's about permitting reform in the Western United States. There are some groups that are afraid of this because they think California is giving up some power. It's really important that you look at the big picture when you decide whether or not to support a bill. Permitting reform is one of the most important things that we need to do to get green projects built. 95% of the projects waiting for permits are green energy projects. And they're not getting built because of the way permits are issued. It's too slow, there's the litigation doom loop, it's 7 to 9 years to get these projects built, and then the funding disappears because it's taken too long. When you read about the opportunities for permitting reform, I'll tell you right now, you will find mining provisions and pipelines in there that you will not like. But what you have to do is to look at the big picture. Because you know what? Those bad projects, they're all going to be built anyway. Because look who's in power right now. And if we don't get permitting reform done, the green energy projects are the ones that are going to suffer. So I urge you to talk to your friends and family and get them to support permitting reform and look at the big picture. So this will give you the big picture about SB 540, which is in California. This is heartbreaking. The United States government is still using taxpayer money to subsidize oil, gas, and coal to the tune of $20 billion every year. This is the cost of the natural disasters. This is quite shocking. So it was supposed to reach globally the cost of the disasters, $38 trillion by 2049. It just reached that amount last year. And one of the things that's really shocking is that the climatologists are really good at figuring out what the temperature increase will be. They're not so good at figuring out what disasters are going to actually happen and how much they're going to cost. Look at these numbers. And remember this when you think, oh, I'm not going to vote, I'm not going to support that permitting bill because I don't like that mining provision. These are the countries that already have a price on carbon. This is the social justice slide. These are global emissions. So the global emissions are going up and up and up. These are the US emissions. The US emissions are coming down. That straight line from, 2022 down to 2030 are the provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act, many of which have been revoked. by the current administration. There's a big push right now to try to preserve the tax incentives for green energy projects. And that's what I'm asking you to do on Sundays now, is to call your Republican representative or senator. I don't have any, but I sure as hell do have some friends who do, so I bug them. This is what would happen if we had permitting reform. This explains what permitting reform is. I don't have time to get into it in detail, but I encourage you to capture this QR code if you want to learn about it. And this is what we would have if we had permitting reform and a price on carbon. And what you can see is that we are down, we're 50% below our 2005 Paris commitment. So this would put us in good shape.
But just to point out, this is what Manchin voted against.
Yes. And I put this slide in because I think it's, I mean, a lot of us are tech people. We've been to a lot of events this week talking about technological carbon capture. And this will help you to understand why it is less effective than we would want it to be. And again, in the long haul, I am hopeful that it will be a lot more effective, but it's just going to take too long. This is a very good recent presentation about state level carbon removal policies, and there's a lot of potential with this, particularly with cement. So check this out. I'm not giving you too many QR codes, but I like giving people information, and I don't have time to cover it all. Okay, so now the rest of the presentation is about what you can do. So 60% of our carbon footprint, and by the way, I hope all of you know that getting you to worry about your personal carbon footprint is a ploy by oil and gas to put the responsibility on all of us and take it off of them. But the truth of the matter is that 60% of our individual carbon footprints are hard-baked into our infrastructure. We can't really do much about that. But we can have an effect on 40%. So we're going to talk about that now. So you can join a group like Citizens Climate Lobby. There are other groups, but please don't try to take action alone. You cannot change the world all alone by yourself. It's very frustrating. I've been trying it, so not going so well. So one of the things I recommend is signing up to receive Catherine Hayhoe's newsletter. It comes out once a week. She has the good news, the bad news, and suggestions for actions you can take. She is a climate scientist from Texas. She's fantastic. So please consider signing up for this. It's really, she always includes good news, and it's interesting stuff. So one of the things I want to point out is when you looked at EnRoads under transportation, it did not do very much. It's really important to remember that here in the Bay Area, if it were a local EnRoads demonstration, it would look quite different because we drive our personal cars. So in the Bay Area, you will see that about 33% of our emissions are from transportation. Yes?
Just a quick question. So the EnRoads model looks at a federal, national level?
It's global.
Global.
The EnRoads model is global. Yes. And in most of the world, they're cycling, they're walking, they're taking public transit. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer about a little over a year ago. I am a retired veterinarian. I know all of these chemicals. They are carcinogens. They cause breast cancer. My husband loved his gas cooktop. I said, I'm sorry, get rid of that thing. It's gone. Now he loves our induction cooktop even more. It's super easy to clean, very accurate. And so for God's sakes, get rid of those gas appliances from your home, but particularly your gas cooktop. The other gas appliances vent to the outside. The other thing is if you have a gas cooktop, for God's sakes, blast that exhaust fan as soon as you turn it on. But these chemicals are being released even when it's not being turned on. You know, all the ones on the left they're coming out when you aren't even using it. You can get a yard sign. Great way to start conversations with your neighbors. You can come with me to Washington. It will be in July this year, so 2 days learning how to lobby, learning what to say, learning about the priorities, and then going to Capitol Hill and meeting with your legislators behind closed door. And Marcel, you are coming with me because you have a Republican representative.
I'll be American by then.
Huh?
I'll be American by then.
Great. Well, you don't have to. You talk like an American.
I've been here long enough.
So I think it's really important to understand what works to change policy. And, you know, we can get very doom and gloomy about, oh, how nothing's going to work. But the truth of the matter is that change is slow, but things do happen. And if you want kind of a historical point of view of how change has happened, here is a great article. It was one of Catherine Hayhoe's past newsletters. And what I want you to really think about is, how did we get gay marriage, right? Unthinkable 10 years ago that this was going to happen. So the way I look at it, and this is just my personal point of view, I don't have no idea if it's really true, is that people started coming out and saying, oh, I'm gay, and oh, gay. And everybody had gay friends, and they wanted them to be happy, and they wanted them to, they knew they deserved the same level of commitment and happiness that straight people have. And so that changed public opinion. It's about talking. It's about talking. How many of you are afraid to have a climate conversation? How many of you don't walk up to people while you're waiting for your groceries, you're in Safeway or Whole Foods or something, how many of you don't talk about climate change because you're afraid of the reaction?
Well, I guess it depends on sort of what the topic, you know, exactly what the area is. And you don't want to necessarily proselytize.
I tell you, I walk up to people in the food line and I just say, you know, I'm really worried about climate change. Do you ever think about it? Do you know what to do about it? And you know, people tell me 3 things. I'm composting, I'm recycling, and I'm going to buy an EV. That's what 99% of the people think. Okay, so I have some secrets for you, because when you hit a real climate denier and they're just blasting, my emotional state just goes boing, and I can't think at all. I'm not a very smart person. I just lose it. So I keep in my back pocket, right here, 2 things that I can pull out whenever I want them. And I've thought them out, I've rehearsed them, I know them by heart. I don't care what my emotional state is, I can use it. 2 things. Oh, you might not believe in climate change, but your insurance company does. Okay? And then if they start denying it, well, you know, your insurance company actually employs a climate scientist. And they're telling your insurance company how much to raise the rates. If it weren't true, don't you think some other company would come in and undercut them? Right? Okay, that's one. The other thing, and this is the one I use for people I care about. Oh, you know, you are so smart. I know you read a lot. Tell me what you've read about that. They've read nothing. They have read nothing. They listen to podcasts. They are on YouTube. You know, whatever. They have read nothing. Guaranteed. Works every time. Okay? So don't be afraid to have these conversations. And I'll tell you, it's really great waiting in lines anywhere. You've got a captive audience. Okay, what you eat makes a difference. So, you know, yes, you know, Strauss feeds their cattle seaweed, and it reduces their emissions, I think, up to about 90%. That's great, but most companies, you know, you're buying your hamburger, it's not from Strauss. Hopefully that will change and go back to eating meat. But for now, so let me ask you guys, are pigs ruminants? No, they are not. They have a digestion tract very much like ours. The rumen, by the way, is this amazing thing. When you're a veterinary student, they have these cows with portals on their sides, and you can stick your arm inside the rumen. It is such an experience. The muscles are so strong, and I mean, it's like the best massage ever on your arm. But anyway, so the rumen is this big organ. It's like this. And, it's this soupy mess of microbes that are digesting cellulose, which is how they get their energy, and we can't do that. It's this miracle that they've worked this form of digestion out. But they, they burp a lot of methane, and they pass it in their poop. And so please stop eating beef and lamb. You can keep eating chicken and pork and eggs and fish. But really, this is very, very important. And remember, this is the biggest cause for deforestation. So this is the deforestation slide. So, someone mentioned nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is actually very safe. I'm a big believer in small nuclear. So you can take a picture of that or think about it. If people say, oh, it's too expensive to make the transition, this is a slide that tells us how much making the transition would cost, the red bars on the bottom, and the blue are the financial benefits to making the change. So it is in our financial interests to make the change and get off of dirty energy. And that's it. So, woo.
Thank you, Elaine. And I think we can take questions. I'll come around for a few. We have the room for another little over half an hour. So let's take a few formal questions, and then we can break up into smaller groups and just have conversations. Anybody who needs to leave, feel free. Anyone got a question for Elaine?
Or Sam.
Or Sam. Sam's here. It's amazing to have a key member of the team here. Yes, okay. I think we'll give you the first shot. Hold it up close.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks. I'm a little bit more curious about the background of EnRoads, and maybe this is a question for you. But I think I heard someone saying when I was coming in and eavesdropping that there was like 14 years had gone into building this tool. That seems like a long time. And would you be open to sharing more background about what went into creating the tool?
So I've only been with Climate Interactive for a year, but predecessors, they had built multiple models. This is just the latest iteration. There was a former model that used to do climate action by country. It was used in the 2015 Paris Agreement to say, okay, if the US, China cuts emissions this amount, like what would that leave us with? So it's just been built on over 14 years. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. There are 14 of us. We have 4 modelers on staff, and then a group of engagement folks who put it out into the world.
I want to emphasize that those 3 dots that Elaine showed you tell you, they go very deep. They go all the way down to the fundamental techno-economic papers on which the model is based, if I'm correct, Sam, right? Yeah. So this is not a trivial thing to put together. It's so easy to use that it looks sort of like a game. But what's down in the weeds is quite amazing. And this is just skimming the surface of what Climate Interactive does. So if you go to their website, you'll see they have all kinds of different ways to use this tool, games. I did one with a high school climate club or environmental club, and they just had them all. I mean, they didn't solve the world's problems, but they had a lot of fun with it, and I think they came away with a better sense of where the controversies really should lie. So I encourage folks to dig a little bit into it. It's so easy, and the mapping functions that they've recently added are off scale. So yeah, Elaine was just showing you the maps. Oh my God, they're so good. All right, other questions? We had one up here.
You know, while you're taking the mic over the other person, I want you to know that I play this game with students where they get to choose only three solutions to keep the world from warming more than 2 degrees. That just went up to 2.1. You can't use 3 solutions to get down to 2.0 now. That change happened about a month ago.
I'm curious about the nuclear impact, how that doesn't have a net benefit and simply displaces renewables. Is the logic there easy to explain?
Yeah, give it a shot. And Elaine, maybe could you pull up the marginal price of energy? I think it's one of the graphs. So if you pull the nuclear, what ends up happening in this scenario, like in a short answer, would be we don't displace any oil because we haven't built any like EVs and things like that. Our housing is still run on gas, so like you can't, there's no electrification to use that nuclear capacity. So if you do some of those complementary actions, you might see some more benefit, but in general, it just crowds out the renewables which are used in electricity.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Other questions? Oh, okay. Let's see, I don't think you've asked one yet, so I'm gonna defer.
Yeah, I was curious about, I was very heavily excited about, capturing carbon from the atmosphere and looking at that technology, but it seems like it does not play a huge role, even if we have that.
Yeah, okay,
Super curious.
so thank you so much for asking that question, because I forgot to mention, you guys know that carbon dioxide is 0.04% of the atmosphere. It is a tiny fraction of the atmosphere. So imagine how much energy it takes to move huge quantities of air through a machine to capture 0.04%. Then they have to compress it and chemically change it into a form that's going to be inert, that will stay, like usually in rock or underground, for thousands of years. It is an extremely energy-intensive process. And there is only, I think, at this point, only one company in Iceland, because they have unlimited geothermal energy, but maybe there's more than one.
Yeah, if I could just take 1 minute. Hi, my name's Carl. I've been studying carbon removal for over 4 years, policy for carbon removal. And I so appreciate the question and the discussion around this. And yes, the EnRoads model clearly shows that it's going to take a long time for it to have an impact. There's so much nuance and detail behind that. The main thing I want to make sure you take away from my comment right now is we must advance carbon removal very rapidly. That has to happen, trust me on that. And we can't use the fact that it's going to take a while to get there, to reduce the price, etc., as an excuse not to do it. The example I like to use is solar. In 1960, can you imagine putting solar panels on your roof? It cost you $1 million. Not going to happen, right? That roughly 60-year period to drive down the cost of solar energy, that took a long time. We don't even have that much time to scale up carbon removal to the level that it has to get to. So it's getting started now. There's actually a plant operating in Tracy, right here in California. It's removing 1,000 tons a year. It was just stood up a year and a half ago by Heirloom Carbon, which is based in Brisbane. There's a lot of stuff happening in California. If anybody wants to talk about carbon removal, please come find me after, but it definitely has to happen. So I just want to make sure you know that's true.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. I wanted to ask a question about the model. Does this account for increased energy demand from like AI and new innovations like that? Because at least last I checked a couple of years ago, when the AI products first came on the market and became all the rage, it increased the energy demand quite a bit. And so like I feel like that would, like we seem to be doing pretty good in terms of lowering our energy demand, becoming more efficient, and then there was this big spike because all this cool AI and all these flying planes, and so does this take into account the changing energy demands as we have new innovations? Thank you.
Yeah, I guess while the mic's coming over, the short answer is yes. We update the model monthly, and the latest World Energy Outlook data has the boost in AI that we're expecting. We're exploring this further in the next year. We're going to have a slider around AI specifically in the works.
Shannon Fury wanted to add a follow-on on the carbon dioxide removal question. It's a really good question, and like what you see up top, it really underscores the fact that we absolutely need to green power usage. So all of power, so coal, natural gas, that's got to get phased out. That's got to get either switched over. If there's any remaining natural gas stuff, that needs to get switched over to like bioenergy plus CCS. So at least it's, and CCS at like 90, very high efficiency, as high efficiency as we can get it. So that at least, we keep recycling that bit. And then using those types of making sure that, expand renewables as much as you can, expand nuclear on a steady trajectory, expand hydro, assuming that you don't have as many droughts, although we are expecting to have increase of droughts, but also increase of storm severity. So wind, as long as you have green power fully in and fully developed and saturated, then you could start applying more of the things like carbon dioxide removal to start pulling down the carbon a little bit. Given the state of the industry and the current research, it's still very early on. So carbon removal isn't going to scale to be able to really make a sizable dent or cause a major problem with coal or oil usage. But if you start stacking things like carbon dioxide removal plus AI plus blockchain plus all really terrible things that start eating away at dirty fuel, then yes, we will have a terrible problem, even worse than we are. Thinking back broad scope, we're, like you said, we're at 1.5, like temperature wise, global temperature, we're at 1.5. So
which was much faster than much higher than we're supposed to be.
Yes.
So I do want to add that it's important to remember that most of the oxygen in our atmosphere came from cyanogen bacteria, which is in the ocean. And the ocean is a huge opportunity for nature-based carbon dioxide removal. I also want to really make sure that all of us understand that the ocean has been absorbing 90% of the heat that we've generated from burning this dirty energy. 90%. And if it weren't doing that, the average global temperature would not be, I think it's 68 degrees Fahrenheit now, it would be 122, right? So please show the oceans some love. The oceans are vast, and there is a huge opportunity for phytoplankton to capture a lot of, and kelp and seagrass to capture a lot of this carbon dioxide.
I want to make 2 points about carbon dioxide removal. One is we are going to need it. Carl is absolutely right, because we can't keep it to 1.5 without it. But the second point I want to make is it should not crowd out any of the other solutions we're talking about. For instance, if we have to do CCS, which is capturing carbon from point sources like cement plants, that is intrinsically cheaper than pulling it out of 0.04% air. In a cement plant, you could run it to be 100% CO2 coming out of the stack, which is much easier to capture and do something constructive with than 0.04%. There's just a law of thermodynamics about this. So that's the first point. And we really want to make sure that we get those kinds of carbon capture under control, mandated, before we start worrying about not before the research is done, but before we promise ourselves that we're going to solve the problem by capturing it from the atmosphere. The second thing is, when we start capturing it from the atmosphere, we're going to need a way to pay for that. Guess what a good way to pay for that is? Carbon tax. Thank you very much. Okay, someone.
Hello, Hello, I actually had questions about EnRoad. Firstly, big shout out to the model because I've worked with models and I can only imagine how difficult the computational side of it would look like and to pull it all together. But I think my question has two parts. Firstly, how well does it capture the international perspective in terms of where the pollution is coming from, what sectors of certain countries are more responsible compared to other countries, what specific assumptions are we based on, and there are so many acts being, you said the model is being updated every month, but I'm wondering if there's a certain act passed or a bill passed in one specific country, does that impact the change that we see on the model? And secondly, how would that inform our way to basically make climate movement more inclusive and international?
So right now, there's an average carbon price of $5 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalents because there are enough countries that have a price on carbon. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So your first question around when specific acts are passed in individual countries, we tend to take an approach of it. We don't believe it until we see it. Case in point would be the IRA here in the US. It can be reversed just like that. So we just wait until things are actually implemented and are consistent for a period of time. It's a globally aggregated model. It's one that runs really quickly. That's the whole point of it, so you can host amazing workshops like this. So there are pieces of the global aggregated part of it that make it more difficult to track those individual nuances in specific countries. We do have another model called EnRoads, and that's more focused around individual country contributions though. I hope that answers your question.
Go to the website.
Yeah, go to the website, climateinteractive.org.
They have a lot of videos explaining and they're training, and it's amazing.
Okay, anybody else? Guess we're getting to the point where maybe we just want to socialize informally among ourselves. Any last hands up? Okay, so Elaine, thank you again very much. The green-haired green lady.
So I want you to know, I am not a trained speaker. I'm a retired veterinarian who's just really passionate about all of this.
Not.
So
you don't say.
So any one of you can do this. You know, you have an idea for something that you want to do. I mean, that's how I made that weekly reminder, right? So I don't want to shame you, but yeah, I do. So whatever works. So you know, whatever ideas you have, please follow through and do them. And make sure that you are making the best use of your precious life and time. Right? So really prioritize what you're doing and how big of a difference is it going to make. Because your time and your life is precious. Everyone in this room.